If you want to grow as a Christian, the only way to do it is through pain. You go to a gym and you walk in and say, I'm really out of shape here. I need you to put me in shape again. What do I need to do? They'll say, okay, we're going to put you on a diet. And you go, no. Let's not get crazy here. Unless you're talking about like a Dorito diet, I can handle it, But I like to eat what I like to eat. And they said, no. If you want to get in shape, it's actually going to hurt. You're going to have to go against your own cravings and your own desires. And you're like, oh, man. Whew, is that it? No. We're just started. Next, we're going to run you. Run? Well, I guess I could run a little bit until I'm tired. I went upstairs yesterday and I got tired doing that, And no. You're going to feel it in your side. It's going to hurt. And when you go, oh, I'm about done, I'm going to say one more lap. Like, oh, well, this is terrible. It's like, well, then we're going to put you on the weights. You're going to be sore in places you didn't even know you had body parts. You're going to be sore everywhere. It's going to hurt. Well, why would I do this? Because that's how, isn't there an easy plan? Can't I get in shape in a different way? And the answer is no. Hey, if there was like some real trick out there, there's an easy way to get in shape and you don't have to do anything. We would have found it by now, okay? There is none. The only way you can do it is through pain. And spiritually, it's just a sad reality. It's just truth. The way we grow is through obstacles and trials and temptations and facing them and coming through them strong. That's spiritual growth. James talks about that in James chapter 1. Now, just because you go through a trial doesn't mean you're going to come out stronger. But it's an opportunity to come out stronger. Just like running around doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be putting yourself in shape. You can be lifting weights and doing it wrong, So this is James. He's going to tell us how we go through a trial and how you can mature through it. James chapter 1 verse 2 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you can be mature and complete, not lacking anything." This is going to shock you. I bet you've never heard a preacher that had 3 points before, but I'm going to have 3 points here. And these are 3 ways to grow through your trials. And if you're going through a difficult time right now, I'm hoping that these 3 will encourage you and give you strength to get through. Number 1, have a positive attitude. Your attitude is going to be so important. And every person, it doesn't matter what the trial is, has a choice on what your attitude is going to be like when you go through it. Everyone has a choice. Am I going to see the worst possible scenarios? And am I going to put my head in the ground and mope? Or am I going to look for the best possible situation and see some joy and some light in it? Your attitude is going to speak volumes on whether or not you come out strong or weak. And I'll tell you, I've been very proud of Miles City this week because I've seen some very good attitudes. Keep that up. Have as good of an attitude as you possibly can. It's really hard to compare our pain. In fact, it's near impossible. We all deal with pain differently. We all have different trials and different situations going on. In fact, it's hard to minimize anyone's trial. Can you actually look at what a 4-year-old's going through as a 4-year-old is frustrated with something that seems so simple? Like a little 4-year-old has his best toy broken, Can we really minimize that with someone else's big grief that they have for real issues? You can't, because we all deal with things differently. But we can teach how to have a good attitude in everything. Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, whether it's persecution or divorce or relationships trials or financial situations, whatever your situation is, just have as good of an attitude as you possibly can about it. In the desert, there's two kinds of birds. Actually, there's more kinds of birds than these, but there's at least these two. There are vultures and there's hummingbirds. And both of them live in the desert. Vultures fly around and they are looking for death and rotten carcasses. They are looking for the ugliest, worst thing there is so that they can take it and put it inside of themselves. And they find it. They fly through the desert and they find everything that's rotting and stinking and terrible, anything that's happened. If it's a bad situation that's happened in the past, they find it because they're looking for it. Hummingbirds also live in the desert. American deserts, they're flying around everywhere. But instead of dead carcasses, they are looking for life. They're looking for blossoms of cactuses, and they're looking around for something that could be, and they find it. You will find what you're looking for. And if you are looking for something that's terrible and rotten and horrible, and if you want to find the worst situation around you, you will find it. We all do. And if you want to find the best way to look at something, you'll find that too. I have a friend. He started coming to church years ago whenever I was at another church. He would come in and sit down. I'd go over and I'd shake his hand. And every single time I'd say, "So how's your week? How are things going?" And he would go, "Rah, rah, rah." Big Debbie Downer. Does anyone in here know a Debbie Downer? Yes. Boy, your hand shot up really strong. Oh, man. Rah, rah, rah. Oh, man. And you'd go over and you'd say, "How's your week?" And he always had the same problem. He had no friends, and he had no girl. And he really wanted a girl. He wanted one so bad. And every Facebook post, you'd read his Facebook post, "Well, I guess I'm going to get her a pizza tonight, but I'll have to eat it by myself because I don't have a girl." Raw, raw, raw. You know, and I started watching, when he first started coming to the church, all these people would surround him trying to be his friend. They'd come over and say, "Hey, how are you?" Da, 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 da. And he'd go, "Raw, raw, raw." And then they'd come next week and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" Or "Raw, raw." And people started to avoid him. And he, after being at the church for a while, started to have a bad attitude about all these people that didn't want to be his friend. And he couldn't see what the problem was. And so I thought, well, I was going to try to have a good, honest conversation with him. So I invited him to my office. I had a dry erase board. And I went over and I said, "Okay, I just want to ask you a question. What kind of a person do people want to be around?" And he said it with his mouth, his idea. He said, "Positive people." So, okay. So I wrote "positive person." I said, "Does a positive person have friends?" He said, "Yes." So I drew an arrow from positive person to friends. And I said, "And the fact there's friends in his life, what does that give him?" He said, "More positivity." He said this. So I said, "You're right on." Okay, so I drew another arrow. So I said, so we have a positive person, and because he's positive, he's got friends because people want to be around him, and people want to be around him, and that makes him more positive. So this person's in this cycle, right? I said, now let's look at another cycle over here. Let's see. Let's say over here there's a person that there's no friends. I wrote no friends. And I said, what does that make? He said, well, that makes someone who's pretty negative. I said, you're right. It does. So I drew an arrow. Okay, negative person. I said, if you're really negative all the time, what does that do with your friends? He said, well, no one wants to be around you. said, you're right. So you have no friends. So I had this other one, negative person, no friends in that cycle. I said, now, which cycle do you think you are in? Quickly, he knew. He said, I'm in that one. I said, okay, so what do you need to do to get from this cycle to this cycle? I guess I need to find friends. No. Try it again. Which one? See, that's what they're doing. What can you do? Which cycle do you need to be a part of? I don't know. If I had more friends in my life, maybe I could be more positive and I can get I'm like, no. Oh, he couldn't see it. He couldn't see what the answer was. And I was like, no, I'm trying to help you, man. Oh, let me tell you something. There are people who seem that there will just always be negative. And there's like nothing you can do about it. And there's some that seem to always be positive. I'm telling you, there's something you can do about it. And you can make a choice as a follower, as a believer in Jesus Christ. How are you going to handle the trials of life? Because I'm telling you, this week was a bad week for us, but it's not going to be the last time we have a bad week in our lives. For some of you, it's going to be one of the worst times of your life. Maybe months and maybe a year. But I'm telling you, you're going to have more trials again. And so my encouragement, my plea to you is to face it with some positivity. I made a choice in my life. I tell people I changed my personality. That's probably not true. I changed my attitude. That's the truth. But it was one day, one weekend, I just went, I'm done. I'm done being negative. I'm done being sad. I'm tired of having my own pity party. I want to be different. I'm just going to be happy. And I made a choice because a lot of your happiness is a choice. A lot of it is. And I just made a choice. I'm different now. I'm going a different direction. I'm going to see the best possible way I can see out of this. I want to find the good in this life. And I want to celebrate. I want to enjoy life. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kind. That's not saying that you ought to look at something bad and say, what's bad is good and what's good is bad. No, it's saying I'm going to have an attitude that's positive, and I'm going to approach life as positively as I possibly can. Good attitude. And attitude is something that's settled. It's a settled way of looking at life. And when you just go, this is how I'm going to see it, with a good attitude, you're just settled and going, that's the way it's going to be now. And so I just want to encourage everyone, if you're having a trial, just see life in as best of a light as you possibly can. Number 2, he says this: consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of any kind, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. So not only should you have a positive attitude, but you need to make sure your faith is still strong. Make sure that testing of your faith, of all these trials, whatever it is, it's testing whether or not I am still a follower of Jesus Christ or not. Am I? Am I still a follower of Jesus? Well, boy, you go through enough trials, it's testing it. I don't know, Lord. I'm getting upset with you. What in the world? Come on. That is a big part of going through trials, is realizing that your faith is being tested and you have to make a decision. Each person in here, I'm going to make a decision. Am I still a follower of Jesus Christ even when life is really bad? When my son died 16 years ago, he was an infant. They had just taken him away in an ambulance. I was sitting in the living room, and my wife, she was in the bedroom. I was sitting there, and I was thinking about running away. I thought, I'm done. I don't need this. I don't need her. I don't need this church. I'm done. I wanted to run away. My mother came over to me and she said, Darren, you really need to be with Rachel right now. I said, okay. I got up. I said, okay. That was a lie. I wasn't planning to go be with her. I was going to run away. Now, I may have gotten to the mailbox and realized I didn't have anywhere to go, but I was taken off. I was done. I went over. We had a split-level house, and we had stairs that went down, and that's how you go outside. The bedroom meant I had to keep walking. And I got to those stairs, and I just turned, and I couldn't take that first step. I could hear my Father's words in my head. Your word is your bond. And I knew I had made a promise to that woman, for better, for worse. And I just stood there and I couldn't walk down those stairs. And so I turned and very reluctantly, I walked down and I went into the bedroom. My wife is sitting on the bed crying. I came and I just sat down on the edge of the bed. And then my wife engaged me. She said, Darren, would you read the Bible right now and figure out what we're supposed to do? No. I said, no, I'm not. I don't want to. And she said, well, would you do it for me? So I grabbed my Bible. I started opening it up and I started thinking about different people that had a child die. It's like Adam had a child die. David had a son die. Job. Well, I'll go to Job first. Went to Job. Do you know what Job did when all of his children died? All of his children died, and the first thing he did was he dropped to his knees and worshiped God. First thing he did. I was like, well, and I read this to Rachel. And then I turned to David. Do you know what David did when his son died? I turned to his infant son. He found out his son died, and it says he got up, he ate, he got dressed, and he went to the house of the Lord to worship. And so I said, well, I guess we're supposed to worship God. She's like, okay. Now, that's weird, isn't it? Because our worship is a little bit different than, we're like, worship? What? Doesn't it seem like the wrong thing to do? I'm like, worship. Well, the word worship just means bow down. That's what it means. This is worship, that's worshiping. In the New Testament, it's the word literally, the Greek word for worship is to kiss forward. Kiss forward, it's worshiping. I went out and I announced to those people that were in my church, different church members and stuff, Rachel and I have decided we're going to go worship God right now. That sounds so out of place. We went to the church, and because I said worship, they had a guitar, they're ready to sing, and they start singing, and it's like, I didn't want any of that. I wanted something different, but I didn't know. And finally, we just started praying. And I prayed, Lord, I don't get this. This doesn't make sense to me. But I'm still here. I'm still here. That's worship. That's the good stuff. The testing of your faith. Whenever you experience trials of many kinds, are you able to look up to the heavens and say, God, in the midst of all this, I don't get it, I don't like it, but where else will I go? You alone have eternal life. I'll be faithful. I'm still your child. I'll keep following you. That's having your faith tested and coming out strong on the other side. You would do good to see whatever trial is in your life if you look at it and go, I need to be as positive as possible, And I need to make sure I keep my faith. I keep my faith. Lord, I'm still your child. I'm still trusting in you. Lead me, Lord. I'm yours. Finally, we get to one word. Perseverance. Oh man, that's a bad word. Don't ever ask God for patience. And don't ever ask him for perseverance. Because you don't ever have to actually use that stuff, you know? This is like horrible. But he says, the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you can be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Perseverance is different than just doing the same thing over and over again. If you wake up every single day, that's not perseverance. If you pray every single day, that's called devotion. It's not called perseverance. Perseverance is when it's hard. Perseverance is when you have obstacles in your path and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And when you're fighting through something, that's perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work. Run the course and see it to the very end. Paul wrote, to keep me from becoming conceited because of my surpassingly great revelations, there was given to me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. I came across a comic strip that has Paul writing those words. There was given to me a thorn in my flesh. And in the background is SpongeBob SquarePants. And he's chained up and he says, where are you right now, Paul? Huh? Where are you right now? Huh, Paul? Paul? Where are you right now? He's like, there was given to me a thorn in my flesh. Which is SpongeBob SquarePants. What is that trial? I don't know what Paul's trial was. But he said that he had this obstacle, this trial that was in his life, a thorn in his flesh. And he said 3 times, I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. It's enough. In fact, my power is made perfect in weakness. And many times as Christians, we are called to simply persevere through trials. That's what all of Scripture is about. It's story after story after story of Christian men and women who had every opportunity to quit, but they didn't. And they kept going. People like Moses. Like by the 8th plague, don't you go, okay, I'm even tired of this. I'm going home, guys. Time out, I'm done. My people don't like me. The Egyptians don't like me. I don't even know if God's on my side right now. I'm done. Shouldn't he have just called time out and called it quits by that point? And it's just story after story of Christian men and women who could have said, I've had enough. But instead they just went, I'm going to keep going. Keep going. Keep going to the very, very end. And if you do that, then you get to a passage like this in James that says, blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. And so if your week has been a bad week, I just want to encourage you and to say, I'm so sorry. I really am. And I wish I had magic fairy dust that would just make it all go away. But be as positive as you possibly can be. Consider it joy. Just look for the good in it. Realize that your faith is being tested and that you have to say, Lord, I'm still here right now. And persevere. Keep going. And don't let a trial, an obstacle, stop you from living your life.